So Tim Pool, besides being a bit of a fool, is a right-wing podcaster who got in bed with Russia, apparently without knowing it. Now, I'm super late to this story because I haven't felt like recording this video, and I have a script here, but we're going to go off it a lot because I kind of just want to talk about this indictment and the allegations because I think they are deeply interesting. So for those who don't know, there was a recent indictment against, and I'm deeply sorry for these pronunciations, Konstantin Kalashnikov and Elena Afanasyeva, which alleges that RT, formerly Russia Today, a state-owned media outlet, funded a US-based media company to amplify its messages after it had to close RT US, which happened because of sanctions related to Russia-Ukraine. The US-based media company it funded turned out to be Tenet Media, a firm which paid Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, Lauren Southern, and Benny Johnson to make videos which only get slightly more views than I do. Not very many. In total, RT paid almost $10 million into Tenet Media, and this represented nearly 90% of the total incoming deposits for Tenet. These funds were passed through shell entities in Turkey, the Czech Republic, Mauritius, and the United Arab Emirates. Let's get into that indictment and the rest of the documents just to try to make sense of it. The indictment alleges Kostya and Lena deployed nearly $10 million to fund these right-wing influencers through Tenet Media. It mentions the founders of Tenet Media frequently, which is Lauren Chen and Liam Donovan. Lauren Chen is almost certainly founder one, and founder one was described as having a contract between their Canadian company and Russia Today, involving founder one, Lauren Chen, producing a total of 217 videos for RT, Russia Today, most of which were shared on founder one, Lauren Chen's YouTube channel. Interestingly, this Canadian company, which directly and knowingly had a contract with RT, Russia Today, was described as the parent company of Tenet Media. Founder 2, presumably Liam, also had a contract with Russia Today's German subsidiary that involved writing English language descriptions of news events. The communications between these founders and the Russians were occasionally funny. In one case, the invoice for August 2023 had not been paid for 2 weeks, and after reaching out to ask about the delay, Lauren Chen apparently Googled "time in Moscow" to figure out why they were not responding. Tenet Media was able to approach Commentator 1 and Commentator 2 to license new media for Tenet Media. Commentator 1 seems likely to be Dave Rubin, and Commentator 2 seems likely to be Tim Pool based on the number of subscribers they have. I will refer to them by their actual names from now on, but if you think it's other commentators, the other ones hired by Tenet were Lauren Sutherland, Taylor Hansen, Matt Christensen, and Benny Johnson. According to the indictment, Lauren Chen, Liam Donovan, Kalashnikov, and Afanasyeva tried to hide the true source of the funding, Russia, from the various commentators, inventing a persona, Edward Gregorian, who was supposedly an investor behind the effort. Commentator 2, who we assume is Tim Pool, apparently insisted that he would need $100,000 per weekly episode to make it worth his while, and Commentator 1, who we are assuming is Dave Rubin, would need closer to $5 million per year, something Tenet knew would almost definitely not be profitable. Despite this lack of profit, Russia was a go on Tim Pool and Dave Rubin. Well, almost a go. Tim Pool and Dave Rubin wanted details of who was funding this and who would they be working with. Smart questions for Tim Pool and Dave Rubin to ask. Dave Rubin would eventually be convinced by this profile. Eventually, Dave Rubin agreed to a contract for 4 weekly videos, for which he would be paid $400K per month, as well as a $100K signing bonus and performance bonuses that I have to imagine they never hit. Tim Pool agreed to a contract for $100K per video, which means that if Tim Pool made as many videos as Dave Rubin, he would be making more money. Kostya, one of the Russians, was not just a conduit for money, which you may be thinking, but also edited content and participated in internal messaging groups with Lauren and Liam. In that chat, they discussed contract negotiations with these commentators. The editing efforts were also presented to commentators as an outside editing firm that Tenet had hired to help with content, and this team included Lena. Lena was identified on her social media as a producer at RT and was introduced to Tenet as part of Kostya's editing team. In that capacity, these Russians were able to help guide parts of Tenet's work, allegedly, of course. To pull this off, they used fake identities, including Helena Shudra and Victoria Pesti. Helena Shudra and Victoria Pesti were really interested in getting commentators to share the videos they produced with their other audiences, complaining directly to Lauren Chen that they were not doing enough of that. Eventually, this editing team, the Russians, would be allowed to create videos which were shared directly to Tenet Media's socials. Sometimes, producers would object to this, like when they were asked to post Tucker Carlson enjoying a Russian grocery store. But they tended to eventually agree. Their influence over editorial went deep too, with Helena Shudra, a fake persona, remember, telling the founders that someone should post about specific issues, including insisting they share disinformation about an attack in Moscow, something which the founder was able to get one of the commentators to cover. Would you believe me if I went even further and said that the Russians were eventually given the ability to post on Tenet Media's socials? Because they were. Tenet Media handed over an absurd amount of influence over their business decisions to Russia Today, which I think leads us in to the responses. Russia, Russia, Russia. All these damn liberals ever want to talk about is how Russia wants to support Trump, and Trump wants to support Russia, and Trump loves Russia, and Russia loves Trump. Why do they never want to talk about failed skate parks? Anyways, Tim Pool has commanded folks who have called him out to eat his Irish ass after the indictment was dropped. He added, Russia sucks donkey balls, something I'm sure he believes. Benny Johnson has gotten in on this whole responding to the indictment thing by stating he was disturbed and threatening to sick his lawyers on anyone who says he is not disturbed. So I want to make sure you are all very clear. The guy who said this is very disturbed. He also wants to make sure you know that the misinformation he spread had nothing to do with RT. Benny Johnson is in the misinformation spreading game for love of the game, not for Russian money. And that is what we're making clear here so he doesn't sue us. Dave Rubin wants to make sure that you know he is a victim, which frankly sounds like that victim mentality that is destroying America, Mr. Rubin.
On why victimhood mentality is not attractive.
Lauren Southern wants to make clear that she got paid way less than the other folks and further claimed she had complete editorial control. Tenet Media needs to do something about the gender pay gap, I think, even though Lauren Southern has claimed that's not due to sexism. All in all, we need to make very clear before any of these useful idiots have their lawyers send strongly worded letters, it is important to remember that there is not evidence these folks knew they were helping Russia. It just happened that they had opinions they were willing to express loudly that agreed so well with Russian interests that Russia was willing to spend millions of dollars to help promote them. So Tim Pool, Dave Rubin, Benny Johnson, and Lauren Southern do not seem, at least yet, to be agents of Russia, at least based on this indictment. Lauren Chen and Liam Donovan may be. Tim Pool and Dave Rubin and Benny Johnson and Lauren Southern are useful idiots to Russia who promote Russia's worldview and who would probably do it even if they were not getting paid all this money. But also, let's be clear, they are getting paid. And this is an important thing to remember about the right-wing media ecosystem. If you align your worldview with certain groups who are evil or hateful or just massively wealthy, you can make massive amounts of money, $100K per video maybe, and maintain an air of plausible deniability about how you are able to buy so many skate parks. You wonder why so many right-wing books, which are borderline unreadable, end up as New York Times bestsellers? Well, I think you can put it together. This money keeps the ground full of nonsense, and most of this money isn't coming from Russia, it's coming from just massive right-wing donors. And this nonsense they fund makes understanding things harder for people who are not necessarily deep into this media ecosystem. So remember, these folks, Tim Pool especially, are useful idiots cashing checks you could only dream of. Probably not agents of Russia. Just useful idiots who get paid massive amounts of money to spread opinions that advance Russian interests, not Russian agents. Let's be clear.